From the people who help you know your competition, InteliChek presents the Multi-Point Inspection Podcast. The Multi-Point Inspection Podcast brings you news and stories from the automotive world told in an informative and entertaining way. In 2004, Fixed Ops magazine began with the intention of focusing on, quote, the needs of new car dealerships, fixed operation directors, their general managers, dealer principals, service managers, parts managers, body shop managers, and CFOs, end quote. I recently had a conversation with Ron Overs, the publisher at Fixed Ops magazine, where we talked about the beginnings of the publication, the publishing world, and both the challenges and opportunities facing dealerships in a post-COVID world.
The magazine started 20 years ago. It was started by a few guys of us that were involved with the variable side of the business. We're involved with a company called Win Oil Company and Win's product warranty. So we're involved with service contracts and also some products in the service department. And we obviously saw a growing need for just a resource to help people in fixed operations get all the information they needed to grow their business there. So it has grown from there, and the magazine 20 years later is an excellent resource for people to really learn more and more about how to operate and run a profitable service department. Yeah, it's a bi-monthly magazine, so like January, February, March, April, May, June. So 6 times a year the magazine comes out and gives us time to really get great stories. The magazine typically has 10 stories in each magazine, which allows us to hit every department, from parts to service, body shop to administration, new products that are coming out in the industry. So we really get a chance to really look at different things and highlight people that are just exceptional in fixed operations around the country.
Ron says that just like its name implies, this free magazine is specific to a certain segment of the automotive industry.
One of the beauties of what we do is our subscribers get this magazine for free because we have such great advertisers who really support the whole magazine and make it all work. This is a very niche magazine. I call it kind of like an Amish tribe. You wouldn't get this magazine unless you really loved fixed operations or wanted to learn more about that, because otherwise there really is no content. So our subscribers are really focused in our decision makers on how to better operate a fixed operations department in a dealership.
The 6-time-a-year publication is available in both print and digital formats, which Ron says is a boon to advertisers.
We started off as a print magazine and continue to have over 20,000 print subscribers to our magazine, as well as about 24,000 digital subscribers. But merged together, there's about 38,000 subscribers to the magazine. Some people get both. So the beauty of it is if you're an advertiser or if you're trying to get your product in front of an audience, they're going to see it several times, which of course is the key to marketing, is not get your name in front of them once, get it in front of them over and over and over. Make it work. Yeah, no, it makes great sense. It really does.
While checking out back issues of Fixed Ops as well as the current issue, I noticed that it is contributing writers that make up the content for the magazine. And Ron says that this is by design.
We have guest writers for every publication. What we found was the people who are really passionate and really understand the business are people who are working in it every day. So we don't have staff writers that try to interpret what's really going on out in the marketplace. We ask the marketplace to provide us great content, and they write stories, and then what we have is great editors that work with them to make their stories exceptional.
Having written for local newspapers in a past life myself, I know all too well how challenging it can be to find both quantity and quality of content. But Ron says that Fixed Ops Magazine has been fortunate in that regard.
For the 10 stories that I get for each issue, I probably have somewhere between 20 and 25 to choose from. So we always have more articles, but I'm always out asking the people that I hear that are the best in the industry to help provide us with content. So I find out, who is the best person in BDC? Who's the best fixed ops directors in the country? Who are they? As well as companies that are really just top-notch at what they do, and ask them to contribute articles, not specifically on their product, but on their expertise, and to let us know how best they would do that. Our cover story this time said Service That Never Cuts Corners by Josh Allen. Well, Josh Allen's involved with Reynolds and Go Moto, but they are really focused in the fixed ops area on how to just maximize that opportunity for you in your store. So it's just a perfect example of a vendor, someone who actually sells to auto dealers, in this case, the Go Moto program, which is the kiosk that you put in that you can use to get people signed in for service without actually having to encounter a person. So they could come early, they could pick their car up late. It just extends your business. It was a great example of how to basically not cut corners, but actually offer your customers more.
You don't immediately think writers when you think of automotive service professionals. But Ron says that once contributors saw the return on investment that came from writing for Fixed Ops Magazine, that is what allowed him to have plenty of content to choose from.
What happened with our magazine is they've seen people get published, and then from that being published, it has helped them further their careers. So I think what's happened is I'm providing them a resource as well. So when you talk to someone like Ed Roberts, who turned wrenches at one point, became service manager at one point, who's now the chief operating officer of Bozard Ford that has 90 bays and a great operation in St. Augustine, Florida. By writing in our magazine, it bettered him. In fact, he's gotten to the point now where he just wrote a book on leadership. But he said by writing in our magazine, it gave him the stage, and it also gave him the opportunity to learn how to become better at writing. And we worked really well with him. Actually, not hard, but we worked well with him to actually, fine-tune his craft and really get his skill set to the point where he can actually write a leadership book that's going to be well received in the marketplace. They get out of it is the ability to be published nationally and be able to tell their story, something that they're very passionate about.
We'll get into the nuts and bolts of the process of writing for Fixed Ops, the changes in the publishing world since the publication started, and the most pressing issues that service departments face, according to Ron, after the break.
So we have got your promotional material in our store, and I've kept track. I've had 13 different customers come to me who were in for regular repairs and say, oh my gosh, I want to get my oil changed because I did not realize that your price was cheaper than Jiffy Lube. I didn't realize your price was cheaper than Walmart. And, people didn't know. And it helped us gain some business that we weren't getting before.
Chris has been with Chevrolet for over 22 years and is talking about InteliChek's InteliShare Series. InteliShare contains all of our promotional tools that you can use to promote your favorable prices, including our Intella ads, the printable flyers that you can show off in easel displays, Intella Media for your digital media boards, and Intella widgets, so you can show off price comparisons on your website and even let your customers schedule from the widget. This is how you upsell your customers without hard selling them.
I placed 2 placards in the business center so they could see that while they're over there working on computers. I also placed it in our coffee area. We have a glass wall there, so when they walk in, as they're putting their creamer and sugar in their coffee, they're going to look up and see the pricing for our pricing as well as our competitors.
Call 877-827-7273 or go to InteliChek.com to find out more about how the InteliShare series can help you grow your business.
We start off by providing them an editorial guideline, and the guidelines simply say, this is how many words we need it to be. Here are what's important to us. We need a title, we need a subtitle. Obviously, we're going to need, our readers typically have, short attention spans, so, we need to have paragraph headings that make sense so that they can read a section, stop, answer a phone call, go back and read something else. So we kind of give them a roadmap of what we're looking for in that. As far as the subject matter, we just say, you need to write about something that you are exceptional at, not something that you want to talk about, but something you've already proven yourself to be exceptional at doing or have achieved in your store. So, don't start writing about leadership if you don't have great leadership. Don't write about culture if you don't have a great culture. Write about something that you are exceptional at doing. And then we go with them, and then they provide us their first draft. We give them a timeline of when we're going to need it by. They give us a first draft. We review the draft, send it back to them, and say, hey, awesome start. Here's a couple of changes we're thinking about. How about you? What else do we need to add or subtract from it? The biggest thing is typically once they get started, it's hard to shut them down at 1,000 words. They really want to give us more content than really is digestible in 3 or 4 pages. In our magazine, you typically can get 300 or 400 words on a page. Call it 350. And we want the articles to be about 3 pages long, right? So we're really looking for that 8 to 1,200 word article is kind of where it needs to be. And sometimes people just can't seem to boil down what they want to say into that amount of words. So that's where our editors work with them to say, hey, is this really important, or how can we say these 3 paragraphs worth of information in 2? And do some things to really tighten it up, and maybe give them good content in a condensed format where people are going to be able to read 2 or 3 pages without getting bored or just distracted and move on to something else.
When asked about the changes that have taken place in the publishing world over 20 years, Ron says that while the digital revolution is in full swing, just like with the resurgence of vinyl records in the music industry, there is a growing amount of people who want an actual physical publication to read.
Yeah, it really has changed. The younger generation today is really asking for more digital options. The beauty of digital is you can get in front of them almost anywhere, right? They can be reading a digital magazine and you can have a pop-up ad show up with your product information that, takes them to your thing. So digital continues to grow. And yet we find that the people who really enjoy sitting down and reading a high-quality magazine really enjoy getting our magazine, and our actual number of magazines we send out continues to grow each year. It's a finite audience. There's 16,652 dealers across the country. That's not really changing, right? We add, we subtract, as dealers, merge and bigger groups buy smaller stores. But that's really the content of who we market to is franchise dealers. So, it's not like we have this ever-growing audience. Well, we have a real finite audience that we want to continue to just get better and better at providing content to them and an avenue for our advertisers to really get their story across.
I asked Ron what were the most pressing issues facing service departments in 2023.
Probably the biggest we're still seeing is just labor, just getting great people and training those people.
According to MarketSource, the U.S. is facing a critical ongoing shortage of auto technicians and estimates from 2020 to 2026, more than 16,000 shops would need 76,000 technicians just to keep up with demand.
Some estimates put the U.S. shortage of auto techs at more than 500,000, thanks to a long stretch of retiring workers and even more leaving during the pandemic.
And as some shops tell us, the labor shortage continues to be an issue.
It's hard to find good help that want to do it.
We've got about 8 working with us right now, but they'll come and work for a day and quit, and you just about can't beg people to work.
So probably the number one thing still is, how do I get great people and retain them? How do I keep technicians on my staff, not have them run across the street for $1 more per hour? How do I get service advisors that can follow our plan and actually do things to actually grow our business by offering services that the customer truly needs? And just getting great personnel in the store is probably number one. And then number two is adapting the new technologies that are in the marketplace. You hear today about AI everything, right? If it's not Microsoft, it's Google, it's everybody has got some new artificial intelligence module that's helping them do things. It's no different in the car business today. It's not just phone calls, but they do have, automated things that call your customers up and say, hey, it's time to come in for an oil change. But they're also they have these automated things that are texting your customers and saying, hey, everything going well? How about, coming in for service?
Today, we're talking about AI and the year that AI will really make a breakthrough in retail operations across sales and service.
So Stella is an artificial intelligent digital voice assistant that answers phones at the dealership. She answers it in one ring, lowers hold times, and can even answer frequently asked questions and book service appointments.
So the presentation we're going to do is called AI Friend or Foe. So hopefully this will be a quick presentation, really talk about things we need to consider at the dealership to be more profitable now than ever.
We're talking all about how conversational AI is revolutionizing the automotive industry.
So there's all kinds of automation that's developing to help support that relationship between the customer and the dealer service department. Because the biggest thing you're trying to do is avoid defections in your service department. Avoid people going to independent shops for things that you can provide them as good or better than they would get in an independent shop that they thought they're going to just save money. If that be tires, oil changes, just basic routine maintenance on your car. The franchise dealer wants to retain that customer so he doesn't go shopping around, because then when he goes to buy a new car, he's going to shop around rather than come back to you.
And then there's the rise of electric vehicles.
The people who have dove into the electric vehicle world, for the most part, love it. The people who buy an electric car and then buy a second electric car is very high. So those percentages are in the almost 90 percentile range. So the people who are doing that, from a dealership point of view, because it's still a small percentage of the business, I think, for 2023, it's going to be somewhere between 8 and 10% of the market. It's still a small component of it, and they're not seeing a tremendous amount of EVs coming back for service yet. There's software updates that are happening and all kinds of things like that, but it hasn't really impacted the service departments yet. But the preparation for that is very costly, and it's one of those things that between dealerships getting the charging tools that they need installed in the stores so that they can service their customers and have charging stations available. Just simply get the cars ready for sale and get them charged up and ready to go. To what safety concerns are involved with working with a high voltage vehicle. Some of these new electric cars have 800 volts. I mean, that's more than just a little shock. It's deadly. People have to really know how to prepare themselves to service a vehicle like that, and not cause damage to the car or themselves. So there's a lot of training that's going on and learning as the volume continues to grow. And it's just an interesting component of it that we're going to see more and more impact on it, over the next 5 years for sure.
If you look at growth in EV market share between now and 2030, there are projections it's going to be 50%. Most of those cars don't exist yet. So if you start thinking beyond the sale and thinking about how do I build an audience for tomorrow, today, right, you have about a year and a half where you can build, understand the research cycle, understand what they're looking for, engage them through email, through content, through newsletters, and you can start building that audience now.
Canadian dealers are anticipating the arrival of EVs in the service lane, and one dealer group COO says the cost to upfit will be significant.
And lastly, the supply chain.
A lot of the shortages that you heard before have started to abate. They are getting parts in much better than they were before. There are shortages, there are spot shortages of things that really do back up service from time to time. But in whole, the chip shortages that shut down production for years, those are slowly getting resolved. And we're probably a year away from that being not much of an issue at all with new plants being built in the United States. So that should be getting better. So in general, part shortages aren't as bad as they used to be. The big key, as we've seen from some articles we have, is having the right parts at the right time, right? Using tools to anticipate what parts you're going to need, so when the customer comes in, you have the parts or the availability of those parts in short order, so that repair can be made and get the customer back on the road. So the intelligence that it needs to make sure that you have the right parts, the most common parts for failures, on hand so that you can service your customers is really key today.
It's hard getting parts here lately. They're behind getting stuff in. They're low on oil and antifreeze, stuff like that. It's just getting really, really hard getting parts.
In a recent survey by the site Crash Network, nearly all shops, 85%, are scheduling work 2 weeks or more into the future due to a lack of parts or staffing challenges.
Even your basic brake job can take major time to find the product.
He says the worst shortages involve electronic components, such as transmission control modules, or TCM.
I mean, we've seen cars come in and they tell us you can't get a bumper across the board. And, you know, a month later, the same car comes in and they got 100 of them.
It's fun. Fixed Ops magazine is, like I said, been around for 20 years, and it's an exciting piece of the auto business, right? On the variable side, on the auto sales side of things, every month you're biting your nails, right? Waiting for customers to come in and ask to test drive a car and look at something. You're spending hundreds of dollars per vehicle just to get people to come into your store. And on the service side, yes, you're spending money to get people, but you have this tremendous base of customers who've already entrusted you for service. And all you have to do is a great job for them, and you can retain them for years. They will reward you with their business. So, it's a great component of the business that continues to grow.
I'd like to thank Ron Overs at Fixed Ops Magazine for the interview. You can find the Multi-Point Inspection podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And be sure to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps with the algorithm thingy. Executive producer for the Multi-Point Inspection podcast is David Swan. It is written, produced, and narrated by me, Brandon Barnett. This episode's featured music is Mountain Peaks by Andy Ellison. InteliChek. Know your competition.